Scott Keeter is with us. He's director of survey research at the Pew Research Center. Scott, I was looking at the recent poll you guys put out showing half of Americans, almost half of Americans, can't name a single Republican presidential candidate. This is after who knows how many debates and basically constant cable news coverage. Are these numbers surprising, and how do they compare to this point at previous elections?
It's not really that different from previous points at earlier election cycles. In 2007, 59% of Americans overall could name a Republican candidate. That's 5 points higher than what we found in the latest poll that we did. In 1999, when George W. Bush was the leading candidate for the Republican nomination, 63% could name a candidate. But when you look all the way back at 1995, when Bob Dole was the leading Republican, only 56%, basically the same as now, could name a Republican candidate. Go ahead. I was just going to say the thing that's different this time is that in each of the three previous presidential races, there was a clearer frontrunner than we have currently. 4 years ago, Rudy Giuliani was the front runner. 45% could name him. 30% could name Romney. Over half could name Bush 12 years ago, I'm sorry. And Bob Dole was named by 51%. In contrast, when we did this poll about 10 days ago, only 28% could name Rick Perry and 27% could name Mitt Romney. And so there isn't the usual pattern that we've seen in presidential elections of there being one standout Republican that people are coalescing around.
Well, what's interesting about that is that when you did this in October of 2007, Rudy Giuliani was the most mentioned Republican candidate, but he didn't end up getting the nomination. So is it fair to say that the most mentioned candidate 13 months out is not necessarily likely to be the one to be the nominee?
Well, it's fair to say that we don't know, obviously, today what's going to happen. The Republicans have tended to have a somewhat more orderly process in which the front runner early on is the person who actually ends up getting the nod. I mean, that was true for both Bob Dole and George W. Bush, certainly for George W. Bush's father. But, you know, we also are reminded by the fact that at this time 4 years ago, Hillary Clinton was considered to be, if not a lock for the nomination, certainly highly likely to get it. And she was the most visible of the candidates that we've tested over the past almost 20 years of doing this. 78% mentioned her. Now, Obama was already well known at this point 4 years ago. He got 62% naming him. But, you know, if you remember the way people were talking back then, it was, well, what's the Clinton-Giuliani race going to look like? And, of course, there never was such a thing.
The other thing that I think is interesting is if we look right now, Rick Perry, 28%, and Mitt Romney, 27%, are the two Republican candidates that people have a plurality have heard of. And this goes counter to what we're seeing in a lot of these straw polls that many insider Republicans are trying to push as a big deal. Ron Paul winning, Herman Cain even winning a straw poll. And I think that it's interesting because I don't think those people have any chance of being the nominees. I do think that Rick Perry and Romney are actually real frontrunners that could actually be nominees. And if we go by actual public awareness, that seems to be supported far more than Herman Cain, for example.
You know, this is something that I think is getting a lot more discussion today, even than it was 10 days ago when we came out with this poll, and that is the continued fading of Rick Perry in the public eye. And the rise of other insurgent candidates. But of course, this isn't the first time we've seen this in this Republican nomination. We had a lot of enthusiasm early on among some Republicans for Donald Trump, of course, never declared. Michelle Bachmann had a period where she was considered a real insurgent and surging candidate. Then Rick Perry had it for a while. And perhaps his debate performances have cooled some Republicans, and now Herman Cain is. And we did a poll which we released more recently, in which we had been in the field for a longer period of time than we normally are because it was a larger poll. And this one, we took the field period and we broke it into several pieces so that we could see sort of the trend over time in how the popularity of the candidates was. And Herman Cain steadily increased among Republicans from 8% favoring him earlier in the field period to 18% in the last 5 days of the field period.
So there is some data backing up that rise for Herman Cain. You know, one of the
Absolutely.
interesting things from this poll, 85% have never heard of Michelle Bachmann. I'm actually incredibly jealous of those people. I feel like if I never knew who Michelle Bachmann was or anything about her, it could only have a positive influence on my life. I have a feeling. Last question for you, Scott. Are people more or less interested, do you have a sense right now, in campaign-related news? And do you think, does that correlate directly or inversely with the state of the economy? In other words, people pay less attention to election-type news if the economy is doing worse?
You know, I think the answer to that depends on who the person is. What we're finding right now is that the Republicans are very fired up, as they were in 2010, to pay attention because they are motivated to get rid of Obama. And so what we're seeing here is that Republicans are actually more interested right now than they have been in a long time. 32% of them say that they are following the campaign very closely. And overall, we're finding that levels of attention to the campaign right now are comparable to what they were 4 years ago. And that's kind of interesting because 4 years ago, you had races in both parties.
Interesting. So you're saying not on a partisan basis, but just overall interest in this race is about equal to 4 years ago.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that largely that is coming from Republicans who are highly motivated.
All right. Scott Keeter, Director of Survey Research at the Pew Research Center. Nearly half of Americans can't name a single Republican presidential candidate. Great to talk to you again, Scott.
Nice talking with you too, David.